Hey there, everybody. Let's see, who do we have hanging out in here? Looks like we got 5 people and 1 thumbs up so far, and we've been on for about 15 seconds. It looks kind of laggy on my end. You guys let me know what you got on your end. Von Heels, how are you doing? And I know it's not Sunday, and this whole YouTube schedule thing, I've kind of blown it out of the water, I guess, as far as not staying up to date on it. And BNSF, how are you doing? So my apologies for not getting stuff out. It's been crazy. Von Heel's doing well. How about yourself? Yeah, we've been covered up with work. It's been insane. Lord Donald Mason, hey stranger, we missed you around here. Well, I appreciate you guys missing me, and my apologies for taking a hiatus. Justin Heil, how are you doing? Jason Heltzley, how are you? Thanks for the email the other day, Jason, asking how we were all getting along. Rob C, how are you? Says looks fine, not laggy from Hawaii. Glad you're doing well. Yeah, I've got a bunch of footage. I just haven't had a lot of time to get anything edited and uploaded. And next few weeks isn't looking any better either. Josh Wellner, how you doing, Josh? Says here for a moment. Yeah, I appreciate you checking on me, Jason. I do that. Lets me know you all care. So in the next few weeks, let's see, I took the crane up to Schubert, Nebraska today for a house job on Monday. And so far, I don't have anything planned for Tuesday. Wednesday, setting up on a big bridge job for Thursday. And then doing a bridge job Thursday, which it's about 3 hours away by crane. We're going to hopefully get done on Thursday, tear the crane down, get it back to the shop, set up on a water tower job for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then tear the crane down and get it ready for a weekend job that following weekend. So, yeah. Josh Wellner's getting ready to head out fishing. Isn't it kind of cold up there for that? I don't know what it's like up there in Maine fishing in December 4th. Jennifer Murtha Stevens, how are you? And my apologies for not getting back to you. I will try to give you a call maybe sometime this weekend. I don't know about the other what we discussed on the phone a little while back. I don't know that I'm going to be able to fit that in this year. So anyway, I'll give you a call this weekend. We'll figure it out. So, and sorry for the late notice on the live stream. I just got home from work just a little bit ago. I'm like, hey, I can either edit a video for the rest of the night and try to get one uploaded for tomorrow. But it made more sense since I've been away for, let's see, 48 days. So since I've been away for 48 days, I figured it was best I come on to a live stream and say hi to everybody, let you guys all know that I'm still around. And I'm still doing videos. It's just a matter of fitting them into the schedule. So this whole thing is all about work-life balance, and YouTube it's a hobby, but it's also kind of like another job. It takes a lot of time. Josh says 50 degrees right now, but have a storm warning up for tomorrow afternoon. We've been fortunate with some great weather so far this year. It's kind of unheard of for December, given everything else that's going on. And I guess some good news is what everybody needs. But Jason says, any interesting videos coming up? I just came off of a job. We were out there, I don't know, a little over a week, doing a whole bunch of bucket elevator work, and I've got some footage on it. I've got some house footage What else do I have footage of? Man, we've done a lot of stuff in the last 50 days. Sparky178, how are you doing? Says hi from chilly Green Bay, where it's chilly for 10 months of the year. Cecil McKinley, how are you doing? Von Heels, good timing with the live stream since I was just looking up yesterday where they could use chains for lifting safely after you had used them for recovery. Okay, that's a good question for that, Von Heels. And technically, if you use rigging for towing anything, you're not supposed to use it for lifting anymore. That's because you don't know how much force was actually exerted on the rigging during the towing process. I think if with chains, as long as you were able to inspect them, make sure that there was no wear inside the links weren't elongated. It didn't appear that there was any overloading done to them. I think you could probably get away with chains, but you're going to have to use your best judgment on that. I'm not one to sit here and back myself into a corner and sit through hours of litigation, but chains are one of those things that they'll show their wear and they'll show you if they've been damaged. Josh Wellner is supposed to blow 45 plus tomorrow afternoon. That sounds like that would be a little sporting in an ocean going vessel. El Golden, that's a good question. It says, who chooses the pick point on a lift if there are no predetermined lift points by the manufacturer, and if there is a failure due to unbalanced load, who eats it? So that actually has gone through the court system a few times. I read articles and magazines and stuff, and from what I've been able to deduce from everything, if the operator has line of sight of it, the operator owns it when it leaves the ground. If it's in the blind, then the person rigging it owns it when it leaves the ground. That's kind of the way the courts have ruled on stuff like that. Really, pick points, if there's no predetermined manufacturer's pick points, then you got to use a lot of common sense. And in this industry, common sense will keep you alive. With a handful of knowledge. But, there are things out there that don't have pick points on them, and you got to make things up as you go along. You got to use your best judgment on it. So I know that was kind of a vague answer. And again, like I said, I'm not one that's going to back myself into a corner on litigation, but yeah. Gerald Heitman, look forward to more of your videos. Been snowing here all day in Canada. Please keep it up there. Walter Matson, how are you doing? El Golden, we do not always rig our own lifts. We're a crane rental company, and we're also a construction company, but my job primarily is to take care of the crane rental side of the stuff, and at least with our big crane. So that means we pick for anybody. I've flown trusses for homeowners. I've picked up stuff for people that have never seen a crane, probably. So, we cover all aspects of it. Now, if it's someone that doesn't know anything about rigging, then I will get out and look and double check it and all of that. Last thing I want to do is drop something. Von Hill says, I think smartest thing you can do in any pick is small moves, and if you're unsure, test it close to the ground. That's a fact. And you can calculate weights on most anything. So, and when in doubt, rig it stout. Woofy W, how are you doing? KB, how are you? Says Jimmy, hope all is well with you and the family. Keep it safe. We're all doing well, even amidst the whole COVID thing. And my wife's in the medical field, my daughter's in the medical field, and so far so good. So, yeah, lots of crazy stuff going on in the world today, but lots of crazy stuff we're not going to talk about. You all know me. We don't talk politics or religion on here. It's the two quickest ways to start an argument. But we can talk cranes and rigging and all that other good stuff. Actually, some of the conversations we've had on here, and we've talked about trucks and cars, and I think we've had discussions about guns. We've had discussions about a little bit about everything. Von Heels, yeah, or if you're really unsure, 2 lines gives you a lot more control. Sometimes 2 lines doesn't give you more control, like that tank that I picked a long time ago that the lifting lug tore out of it. That was pretty well. Well, I had control of the top of it, didn't have control of the bottom of it. Woofy W, any news on the hammer? It's still sitting in the corner of my garage and it has a lot of dust on it. I haven't done anything with it. I haven't had time to do anything with it. Walter Matson, you guys aren't, he asked a question. Have you modified your truck yet? You guys aren't going to believe it. Oh, well, we'll let that one in. I got rid of my truck. I had it a year. I guess it was getting old. But yeah, I'll get into it in a second. Jason Helsley says, I think I have this exact same cup. This is an Arctic, and a friend of mine owns a powder coating company, so he powder coated it black for me. Von Heel says, how do you manage to keep tension on the lines when you inspect and respool the winches, and how much tension do you require to spool correctly? So what I do on the big crane, and I actually had to wind up my rope again. It was pretty breezy. It was blowing about 27 miles an hour on the job that I was on, doing a bunch of bucket elevator work, and I had 197 feet of main out. And I was still in my chart. I was in my 30% of capacity chart, but the wind had blown my rope over a little bit, and so it kind of jacked my lays up on my drum. So what we did is we put 6 parts of line on the block, and I ran out 150 feet of main, and then we just cabled down until the hook almost touched the ground. Basically took all the rope off the winch spool, and then we wound it back up with the block on it. Now, ideally, I would have hung one of my wing weights or something, which would be like 15,000 pounds, and loaded up that way. But we didn't have one with us, so since that rope had already been on there before, it laid in there perfectly fine. If you're spooling new rope on, then I would recommend hanging near line pull capacity and winching that up with it, with however many parts of line you needed to unwind it and wind it all back up. So hopefully that makes sense. KB, I have not seen any of that. Josh Wellner, you have to keep the wire tight. That's a fact. So back to Walter Matson's question. He said, have you modified your truck yet? So back when I started this whole YouTube thing, I had a 2014 Dodge Ram crew cab. You guys saw that in a few videos. It had a Cummins in it. And then I traded that off for a 2017 GMC Sierra with a 6.2 in it, which was it was a great truck, and I would still be driving it. However, the truck market has gone crazy. Oh, Billy Laptop, thank you for that. I appreciate it, sir. But the truck market's gone crazy. So if any of you all are sitting on a later model Chevy, GMC, Ford, Dodge, it doesn't matter. The used truck market's nuts. So I drove that GMC for a year, put almost 17,000 miles on it, and I was able to trade it in for what I paid for it, which is unheard of. So I traded it in. And you guys are going to laugh what I traded in on, but I traded on a 2018 Ford Explorer Sport with the twin turbo EcoBoost in it, which I got to say, it's got bucket seats in the back, like the second row. For a 6-passenger SUV, it's pretty fun to drive. Let's see. Lars, I'm not going to attempt your last name, but it says, new subscriber here, loves your videos since I've been thinking about pursuing crane operator career since my current job might come to an end due to COVID. Do you have any advice by chance? So if you are, and welcome to the channel. First and foremost, welcome to the channel, and I appreciate you hanging out with us and watching videos and whatnot. If you're new to the world of cranes, I would try to get, I don't know where you're located, but whatever the equivalent of a commercial driver's license is, and then try to get in with a crane company that does crane rental stuff, and maybe get on. Is over here in the States, it's an oiler. It's called an oiler. It's basically an assistant for the crane operator. The more you can learn about them before you ever try to get in the seat, the better off you'll be, and the safer and the more productive you will be. So that's my advice, is just try to get around them. Try to get in a situation where you're around cranes. Walter Matson, there is no guide for the cable. Von Hills makes perfect sense. It's along the lines that I was figuring, but wasn't sure if line pull was overkill or not. Line pull is not overkill when you're winding rope onto a drum. You can get by with less, but line pull is not overkill on it. Oh, Jason Heltzley asked, but will it pull your camper? No, but I sold the camper too. Been a lot of changes, I guess, since the last live stream. So, Jason, our camper was set up. It was the perfect camper for a family with young kids. Had a queen bed in the front, well, actually a bedroom with a queen bed in the front, and then like a middle living and kitchen, rear bunks with a slide. And our kids were outgrowing the beds that were in the back. Actually, the kids completely outgrew them. And my wife works with a lady that she has young boys, and they were looking for a camper, and so we sold it to them. They're loving it. They've got, I think their youngest might be around 5 or 6 years old. Their oldest is about 12. So it's perfect for them. So we figured, we hadn't pulled it much in the last 3 or 4 years, and they would get more use out of it. So Josh Wellner, I'm out. Need sleep while I can get it. Ride home will not be fun. But be careful out there, Josh. Be safe, and throw up a video of what you're doing. And Josh Wellner's been posting some videos on his channel. He's out in Maine and goes out in the ocean and catches lobster. I think that's how they say it up there. Laura says Netherlands, so Europe might explain the name too. I assumed that you were across the pond somewhere. Walter Matson, no midlife crisis. Rogue Excavating, how are you doing? Walter Matson, do you still have the Harley? Actually, it's not a Harley, it's a Honda, but yeah, I've still got it. KB asks, how many rope winds on the drum do you have? I don't know how many layers deep that is. 4, maybe 5. There's 1,100 feet of rope on it. Von Hill said, I'll say the lobster I bought off the boat in New Hampshire was the best seafood I've ever had. I love lobster. I'm the only one in my family that will eat it. The only one in my house, anyway, that will eat it. But I love it. I can't even get my son to eat shrimp. For some reason, he doesn't even like shrimp. Yeah, we've gotten a few pretty good questions in this evening. Yeah, this is my last free weekend, I think, for a few weeks, at least until Christmas, and then it's going to be come Monday. It's going to be a 2 to 3 week stretch of chaos. A lot of moving around. We also put 8 new tires on the old Tadano. Let's see if I can find a picture of that. I was going to record it, but the guy that I work with that does a lot of tires, he doesn't like cameras. So I asked him, like, hey, you mind if I record that? And he's like, I'd rather not be on YouTube. Let's see. So that's how we change tires. Come on. So hopefully you guys can see that. Trying to get it to focus right in there somewhere. Maybe it'll focus on that better. Tom Gentry, Aries says, good evening, Jimmy. Loves your videos. Good to see you on here tonight. Be safe. Lars, I'm jealous. Current job is in the entertainment industry. It's not a lot due to the past 7 months. Mentioning do something productive for a change. Crane work it's very rewarding, very productive, but it can be very stressful at times. So, Aaron Johns, how are you? Says, hello, Jimmy. Have you ever made a video of how you position your hands? There is a video that I had actually had time to set up some cameras. Let me see if I can find the name of it. I had 3 cameras going, and I had one in the cab pointing, I think, basically straight down. And you could see a lot of what I was doing with the controls. But I was also panning back and forth and whatnot. Where's it at? So if you find the video that's titled Playing with Trains with the Crane, I think you'll get some overhead footage in that of what I'm doing with my hands. Walter Madsen, how do they go on the wheels? So the wheels on the Tadano are a split rim. So there's the actual wheel itself with the rear bead area, and then you slip the tire on, and then you slip a ring on that's got the outer bead area, and you shove that in a little bit, and then there's an O-ring that seals that ring to the actual wheel, and then there's a big lock ring that locks that outer ring in place. So that we don't take the wheels off. We don't unbolt. We don't take the lug nuts off, take the wheels off the axles to change tires. We break the tires down, leave the wheel bolted on, slip the tire off the wheel, slip a new tire on it, put it back together. I know it sounds easy. It took us 8 hours to do 8 tires. I was taking them off, putting them on. Zach Porter, I have done septic tanks. KB, I don't blame your son for not liking shrimp or lobster. I don't like it either. Only cod or whitefish. Southern Boy, how are you doing? He says, what crane certification would you recommend? NCCER, NCCO. So the NCCCO is pretty much recognized everywhere. I don't have either of the ones that you mentioned. I have OECP, which is I'm in the operators union. It's our own certification program that's recognized by OSHA and all that, but it's not something that's out there everywhere. But our OECP test is ridiculously hard. I've talked to people that have had the NCCCO and have gotten the OECP, and they're like, man, that OECP test is a lot harder than the other one. But with the NCCCO, you can go anywhere and they'll recognize it, except for the states that require city or state specific crane certs. Aaron Jones says, I'll go watch it. Thanks for all your videos. I'm in crane classes and I've learned a lot from your content. Well, thanks for being part of all of it. I'm glad I could help. Aaron Bart, I think it's Barty. I work in a shipyard, run 75 ton, going for crawler certification. Any tips on getting in reps with a crawler? It's going to depend on where you're at and who you're with. If you work for a company that has crawlers, even if you could have one set up in the yard and play with it there, it's still experience. So, shoot for that. If you don't work for a company that has crawlers, it's going to be significantly more difficult, and you're going to have to find someone that's willing to let you get in their rig and run it. Nigel Ashworth, how are you doing? It's good to see you, bro. KB, okay, not let the camera fall on that video. Yeah, that is the video that the camera fell on. Walter Madsen, do you wrap some chains around them when airing them up? What we did is we parked our 12,000-pound forklift against it and aired them up that way because we don't have a cage big enough to put those in. And so we parked a 12,000-pound forklift up against it to air them up. Von Heels, we do some heavy haul. It just depends on what it is. We haul some over dimension and some overweight stuff, but we don't get into stuff where we need 30 axles and stuff like that. We hire it out. G4 Outdoors, how you doing, Randy? Robert Wink, how are you? So this shirt, Nigel Ashworth asked, where can I get a shirt like that? So I don't know. My wife found it somewhere, but let's see if we can get it all in here. I got to stand up more. Okay. I don't know where she found it. Alex Rogers says, I'm getting my NCCCO cert soon. My boss is going to start me out on trusses. Any tips? Much appreciated. Oh, thanks for posting that, Jason. So trusses. Here's the skinny with trusses. Make sure, typically when people are setting trusses, you got a person at the front of the wall or the front of the house or building, whatever, and a person standing on the back wall. Make sure both people are paying attention the whole time you're bringing the truss in. The reason why I say that is a long time ago, back in the beginning of my crane life, had a situation that was almost catastrophic for a guy. So setting trusses on a house with a walkout basement, the back wall of the house, he was standing on the top plate of the wall for the first floor. I'm going to say he was 25, 30 feet in the air, maybe. The guy on the near wall closest to me grabbed his end of the truss and swung it. And when he did, it spun the opposite end, and it hit the guy on the back wall and knocked him off the wall. And the only way that he didn't hit the ground is he was hanging on the truss. So when the truss hit him and knocked him off the wall, he grabbed the truss. I knew he grabbed the truss because my end shot way up in the air, and I set him down on the ground. So, yeah, make sure both people are paying attention when you're swinging those trusses in. And speed comes with practice and time. So, Alex, don't try slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So don't get out there and try to run like your hair's on fire, or try to run as fast as the machine can possibly go. Run at your own pace, and the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get with it. Naturally, the faster you'll get with it. And if you got your crane certs and you're setting up, a lot of the people that are building these houses and whatnot, they call in a crane for a little bit of work, but they don't know the true capabilities of that crane. That's why you're there. That's why you're operating it. Don't let someone talk you into something that you're not comfortable with or that the machine is not capable of. So make sure that you are willing to stand your ground. And I'm a nice guy most all the time, but there are times when you got to be a jerk sitting in that seat and you got to tell people no. And there's times that people are going to try to push you. And that's when you got to dig your heels in and stand your ground with it. Randy G4, that's a great slogan. Von Heels, the smartest experts in any fields are the ones that have never done anything remotely related to it. G4 Outdoor says, coincidental or not, nice lighting on your model cranes. Thank you. It's been like that for a little while, and I can adjust it if they need to be brighter. Or we can even change the color. I don't remember. I think that's what I had them on. Yeah, we'll leave it there. Doesn't look bad there. Jason Helsley sounds like some people I know in EMS management. Von Heels, that's a good point. Says, when I was running equipment, if anyone within my machine's radius was not paying attention to me, the machine did not move. May have taken a little longer, but I never hurt anyone. And yeah, that's the biggest thing is we're in this industry to stay out of the news. I had a guy tell me, he said, sissies will never be heroes. And I told him, I said, sissies will never be in the news for killing anybody either. That's not the exact words he used, but you guys get the picture. Tristan Mays, how are you doing? Haven't talked to you in a while. I think you abandoned the old Facebook, which a lot of people are. Jason Helsley, the hardest part of my job is dealing with stupid people. That's a fact. That some folks just don't understand they shouldn't do anything they don't want to explain to paramedics. And Jason Helsley, I don't know if you know this or not, but I was actually an EMT for a little while. G4 Outdoors, typical Jimmy fashion. Daniel, what are the counterweights on your crane made of? I do believe they are made of ductile iron. And I've asked that question to Tadano rep, and he just told me iron. So I think they're ductile iron. They're heavy for their size, and they'll break if you're not careful with them, as most counterweights will. There are some cranes with counterweights that are made with poured concrete inside of them, but Tristan Mays, yep, Facebook's no good. Not getting into that part of the discussion, but Instagram, that crane guy, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And I haven't even been on Instagram for I don't know how long. Let's check it while I'm on here. I probably haven't been on Instagram about as long as I haven't uploaded anything to YouTube. So looks like we got 35 new people following on Instagram. I've had a comment and 12 hearts. I really need to get my head out of my backside and keep up to date on this social media stuff, huh? G4, speaking of news, the House of Representatives passed decriminalization of marijuana on federal level, so there's that. Randy, I know you just put that in there but I'm taking it out because we're not doing politics on here, and I know you're just doing it to stir the pot. Tristan May says, you do, Jimmy. We missed you, mate. Yeah, my apologies. It's a tough thing keeping up with this YouTube thing. You know that with all the social media and everything, it's a man. If a person's not a video creator, they have no idea what goes into it. Jason Heltzley had my license since 2003 and expires at the end of the month. I'm not renewing it. Letting it go since I can't use it any longer. Says my career ends and another chapter of my life closes. That's some sad news, Jason. Hopefully you're ready for it, and you can spend some time fishing, hunting, cooking, all that good stuff. Oh, Tristan, that's tough. Says I'm good. I'm on a job in Belgium. CC 8800. Can't make any videos. There's I've run into more and more people too that have said no to me recording on site, and I get it. There's a lot of people out there that want to point fingers when something happens, and they think they're opening themselves up to liability if there's a camera running, and I got to play by their rules. I'm playing in their sandbox. Got to play by their rules. KB, how's the wind turbine business going? I don't know. I don't do much with wind turbine stuff other than recover them when they lay them over in a ditch. And I've still got footage. So anybody that's been on the channel for a while probably remembers when we took two of our cranes out and recovered that wind turbine tower section out of a ditch. I had to go back 10 days later and recover another section by myself with our 200 ton. It was a base section. It was like 88,000 pounds, but they had one of those in the ditch and I had to go recover it. And I've still got footage of it. I just haven't put it up. Maybe I need to do that. Oh, G4 Outdoors. Yep, wind turbines still going up, same as they always have. I haul them for the railroad. Von Heels, that's a great point. It says you cannot always be 100% safe. All you can do is all you can to make the situation as safe as possible and try to minimize the impact of the things you can't control. Your tree job is an example. That's a fact. So everything we do inherently has risks. The world of cranes inherently has a little more risks than some other careers. All we can do is try to mitigate those risks as much as possible, but there's always still something that can happen. So, and I had several comments on that tree video. They're like, man, there's a lot of people around. Well, there was a lot of people around because that was a major event for the area, and we were on a public street, and we weren't on a job site, and we were actually in city limits. And there was roughly in that area at that time, I'm guessing there was probably 200 or so volunteers working in that area trying to clean stuff up and take care of things. And there was quite a few of them on that tree project. There was people with phones out recording. There was cameras. There was news crews. You name it, they were out there. So one thing I did do is, without setting up barricades and law enforcement to keep people completely out of the area, which wasn't really feasible. When I was really getting up on that tree stump, I made sure that there was no one between the crane and the creek in case something were to happen where the bank would have blown out, or what if the crane broke into? I wasn't out of capacity. I was close. I was real close, which is why we ended up putting another counterweight on. But just in case something went crazy, I made sure there was no one between me and the tree. Jason Helsley said that's my plan, along with my dialysis treatments and hopefully getting married in the near future. Does the person that you're hopefully getting married to know that you're hopefully getting married in the near future, or is that yet to be disclosed to that person? G4 Outdoor. Randy, do you think the helicopter people were wishing this dummy would get away from us the same way you would want people away from your work area? Actually, no, they were completely cool with it. And I was able to talk to them when they were wrapping up their job. Um, I got their permission to post the videos, and they said, really, we can't tell you no. They said we wouldn't be able to let you put a camera on the helicopter, which I asked because they were out there the following day. I asked them if I could put a camera on the helicopter for a couple of their pics, and that was shot down pretty quick. But I even asked for a ride in the helicopter, and that was shot down faster than the camera idea. But no, they were cool with it, and they were really great people to talk to. I think the name of their company was Air to Air, and man, their crew worked like a well-oiled machine, and they were just down to earth, good guys. And I kept my distance away from them. I was the second part of the video when I moved over closer, and I actually lost my vantage point to the guys on the tower, but I was closer to the helicopter landing zone and where they were rigging stuff up. But I don't know. I was 100 feet away from them. I mean, that's far enough. If something would have happened, I could at least try to get out of the way. Von Hills, there's likely no way for you to know a lifting leg was going to pull off. But due to the precautions and SOPs, it ended up being remember when this happened instead of something you want to forget. That's a fact. Smedco, how are you doing? He says, almost missed a live stream. Oh, Jason Helsley says, yeah, but I haven't asked yet. She knows it's coming, just doesn't know when. Well, hopefully she's not watching this with you. The cat's out of the bag, buddy. L. Golden, if you're doing a full day job and due to weather you have to stretch it to 2 days, does the customer have to pay the extra 8 hours or just depending on how you bid the job? I don't get involved in the billing part of it, but typically, if we have to stop for inclement weather, typically the customer's time stops and we'll start it back up the following day. Aaron Barty, is there a standard for calculating how much boom deflection you're going to have? If I was a mechanical engineer, I could probably calculate the boom deflection. You would need a lot more information from the manufacturer than what's provided to an end user to make that calculation. So no, not really. Having experience, I mean, experience will tell you a lot of it. Like, for instance, I know if I'm going to stretch out to a 200-foot radius with 3,000 pounds, I'm probably going to have right around 4 or 5 feet of boom deflection. That's 4 or 5 feet of extra radius in boom deflection. The actual boom will probably, I would say over the length of the boom with jib and everything, maybe close to 8 feet of bend in it. But, to sit down and calculate all that out, we would need a lot more information from the manufacturer on it. So no, there's not really a standard for calculating that. Now, I'm sure there's some pick plans out there that are engineered that they factor all that into it. And really, with a crane operator, boom deflection shouldn't be much of an issue when they're picking stuff up and setting stuff down. A crane operator that's paying attention will make sure that they keep the tip of the crane right over the top of the load. So, for example, when they're cabling up with something and the boom starts to do this, then we'll boom up to compensate for it. And when they're setting something down and the boom starts to straighten back out, then we'll boom down a little bit to compensate for it. KB, I have seen some of the videos tree trimming with a copter, and they're pretty neat. Jason Helsley, nope, she's at work. Well, that's good because we would want to let the cat out of the bag on that. Fun heels. That's true. So you can always tell when someone from the industry is watching you work, as they are much more careful to stay out of blind spots and keep out of harm's way. And that's one thing I did when I approached that helicopter crew. I made sure that I made eye contact with everybody on the crew that was in the area, and even the pilot. Smedco says Aaron Bertie, the crane has its boom deflection programmed in the computer so you can judge in the heat of the moment in the blind by watching your radius. That there is a fact. So yes, you can watch the LMI or the computer and determine when your radius is changing how much you need to boom up to hold your radius. Zenon Watts says, hey Jimmy, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you as well. Given how things have been going, I probably won't be on here again before Christmas, but we'll see. Lars says there's that one video of a helicopter literally swinging cut trees into a truck. Think you can do the same with a crane? I can get a load getting pretty crazy and set it down about right where it needs to be. So I could probably swing cut trees into a truck with it. Some might think that's a little reckless. I guess it all depends on how heavy the trees are and what the capacity of the crane is at the given radius and configuration. But that crane's capable. Most every crane's pretty capable of getting rowdy. It's all dependent on the situation. Setting trusses is one where a crane can typically get rowdy. If you got a good crew that you're setting for and everybody's paying attention and everything's falling into place, man, you can fly some trusses in a hurry. Like to the point where the tip of the boom is out here and your trusses are back here 15, 20 feet behind the tip of the boom, and then you're catching it and swinging them in and handing them to them, all in control. But, from the outside looking in, it probably looks like chaos. Smedco, hey, Jimmy, heard there's a new rental house in your town. Maxim opened a branch near you. I heard that they've got one about an hour south of us. So there's actually a Maxim crane 15 minutes from my house right now inside a substation. I think it's a little 60-ton picker or 60-ton RT. But, yeah, I think they've got a little outlying facility down in Kansas City somewhere. Von Hill's trying to get some video or pictures of the local crane heavy work company picking up about 1,200 square foot house and putting on a new foundation. Yeah, I've got a house coming up Monday that I'll probably record. Setup was a little tricky. The way the site's set up, we had to set the crane up mid-span, get all the counterweights on the ground before we can go to full span. That's the world of crane rental. Sometimes customers don't always set their sites up for the crane, and you got to work around that. And sometimes they have to work around what you need too. But I'll try to record that one on Monday. And really, we've done, since I've been on, we've done tanks, houses, quite a bit of bucket elevator work, and some other odds and ends stuff. And I really want to try not to be redundant on here. I mean, how many house videos and tank videos do we have already on the channel? So we got a water tower coming up in a week or so. That'll be a something new for everybody to see. Hopefully they let me record on the site. Oh, we've done a cell tower, which how many cell towers do we have? So I'd really like to find some more new stuff that I can get put on here. Von Hills, I can understand. It says to get a wide enough stable platform, they had to reach over another house and railroad tracks to reach it. It was quite a sight. I've flown house halves over existing house halves before, but it is what it is. I was setting a house on a basement up in or foundation up in Iowa a few years ago. It was actually before I started the YouTube channel, and the people that owned it, the guy's wife was standing out there in close, no, I can't say close proximity to the crane, but far enough away that we could yell and have a conversation. And I already had one half of it set, and I had to fly the second half over the top of the first half because of the site constraints. And as I was doing it, I yelled out the door to her. I said, "Hey, if you want a 2-story, now's the time to do it." And she just kind of looked at me. I said, "I could set this one right on top of the other half, and then you could have a 2-story single wide." And she didn't find the humor in that, but it could be done. Randy, redundancy is your job. It's what we want to watch. I've got some footage from last winter of a tank that I've been kind of holding off on. I'll edit it and upload it. I was right at capacity. There was no room for error. When I set the tank down on its pedestals, there was no picking it back up. So it was beeping at me as we were touching it down, and it went from a steady off and on beep to a constant beeping, and that's when you're out of capacity, and it does that right at the very end when we touched it down. So I'll probably edit that and post it, and I'll probably get a bunch of crappy comments on it, but comments are comments. But I've been holding off on that because of the fact that it was there. If it would have been 500 pounds heavier, we might have been in trouble. Zen Watts, I'm fine if you keep posting similar pics. I'm just here to spend free time and see how this stuff works. I like it all. Tristan Mays, I've been posting some crane fails on my channel just lately due to not making videos on this site. Yeah, I won't post any crane fails on this one. I want this channel to be cranes in a positive light, and there's crane fail videos everywhere, and I want to show people what you can actually do with them without tearing stuff up. And I also believe that karma thing. That I would hate to post someone else's undoing and then have it be mine as well. Jake Break, I've seen Virtual Railfan. I'm not subscribed to it, and I can't say that I've watched it, but Shane Davis, I want to be one of those guys in a crawler tracking across Farmer's Field from wind tower to wind tower. That's really the most dangerous time. And Tristram is a crawler operator. That's what he does. I don't think Tristram spends any time in stuff with tires on it. And just like I don't spend any time with stuff with tracks on it. And Tristram will probably back me up on this, but that's other than laying one down when you're getting ready to tear it down or laying the crane down for whatever reason or booming it up, walking it is about the third most dangerous time in a crawler. Picking them up for the first time, dangerous. Laying them down is dangerous, and walking with them is pretty dangerous. Can be. I think I don't want to mess up that name. We'll just go with Larson. That's the last name. It says, hi, what year the Tadano and how long do you keep the cranes before buying new stuff? And are the firm considering going bigger? So our Tadano 180G is a 2013. Our 80-4, I think, is a 2008 maybe. We keep them for a long time. And I don't know that we'll go any bigger than what we have. The 180G-5 that we have, which is it's 200 American tons, it fits our market very well. Very, very seldom do we ever have to farm anything out to someone with a bigger crane. Von Hills, one thing I've learned is there's no two jobs are exactly the same. Well, there's that. Tristan. Yeah, Tristan says, nope, never touch mobiles. Barry Hansen, how are you doing, Barry? Says, how's Thor coming along? Thor is sitting in the corner of the garage gathering dust because Thor hasn't been being worked on. I've been too busy doing other things. Tristan May says, never walk a crane across fields without mats. It's just a big no. It happens a lot here. Just a few years ago up in Iowa, there was an operator killed, was walking a crawler across the field, and no one knew. There used to be a house in a certain spot, and the basement had been backfilled. I mean, it was grown over with grass and brush, and no one, well, I can't say brush, but it was grown over with grass. No one knew it was there. Operator walked that crane off in that basement. Crane went over and killed him. 23 KC, how are you? Smetko says, man, I avoid crawler work if I can help it, but this week saw chiseling the welded C's crawler drive brake apart on an MLC 300 while laying in the mud. Reinforced my thoughts on the matter. Yeah, and I mean, I've played around in some crawlers, and it's what everybody, some people like crawlers, some people like mobile cranes. It's all in what we're used to. I like the crane rental industry. There's a lot of people that don't like it because it is. I mean, the crane rental industry, or taxi crane service, is sometimes referred to as. It can be a tough one to be in. You got to be able to make decisions in a hurry at times. It's challenging because nothing is ever the same. Sometimes you got to work through adverse conditions. Sometimes you just got to make things happen. So to me, that's rewarding. It's challenging to me because I really have to put a lot of thought into stuff. But, and then there's other people that they like going to the job sites where everything's engineered and set up, and all they have to do is get in and operate it. And I don't fault anybody for that. That's what they enjoy. Then more power to them. But I enjoy the challenge of the crane rental industry. KB says, have great holidays. Keep it safe. Signing off for now. Thanks for hanging out with us, KB, and happy holidays to you. Melvin says, hello from Alberta, Canada. Hello from Missouri, USA. But I have people ask me, they're like, hey, if you're wanting to become a good crane operator, what's a good way to do it? If you can get into the crane rental industry with a company, you will be hit with so many different scenarios that it'll turn you into a pretty decent operator pretty quick, as long as you pay attention and have some common sense, which common sense at this point should be called uncommon sense because so few people possess it, but that's a story for another day. Von Hills, one thing with the advent of side and rear view cameras on machines is I'm afraid it's making some operators complicit in danger because they think they can see more than they can. I can definitely see that. I do like having a camera on my winch drum, though. It makes a difference if you got to just cable down a fraction of an inch to be able to watch that winch drum barely move. Shane Davis says, lifting something very heavy and the machine is set just right. Would you ever feel the lift in the seat? You absolutely do. You can feel, I can have that crane set up with 110,000 pounds of counterweights on it, which is a full stack, with 150 feet of boom in the air, and I can feel 15-mile-an-hour wind. So you absolutely can feel picking. You can feel picks that are not even half a capacity. Smedco says, how's the old 180 been running these days? Been running into a spat of hydraulic issues on our ATS these days. Knock on wood, our 180's been doing fantastic. I was in Watts. I recall you talking about rigging inspection video a while back. Is it out yet? If not, I'm looking forward to it. I completely forgot about that. So yes, I need to do that. Thanks for reminding me, and it is like 6 months overdue. So I'll see if I can throw together a rigging inspection video for you. I agree, Von Hill says cameras are great, but you still have to be aware of your surroundings and not just look at the screens. So the only cameras I have on our 180 is the one in the back bumper for hooking up to the dolly, and then 2 cameras, one on each winch drum. And the ones on the winch drum, I use those to make sure my rope's laying like it's supposed to, and then also for doing real precise work. And it's good for when you're pulling the second line, or if you're doing anything, if you have someone working back there near the drum, but you have to have someone in the seat running rope off and stuff. It's good for monitoring what they're doing. Make sure you don't wind someone up. Smedco, hydraulic valve blocks playing up, pumps not ramping. Ooh. Is it getting cold where you're at, or do you have, you have debris in the system? What's going on with all that? I mean, I'm preaching to the choir on this. You're sharp as a tack when it comes to these things. So, but what are you typically seeing in the systems when you're digging into them? Von Hill's computers and cameras are just additional tools to help keep you and others safe. They should not be used to replace due diligence. And there is a lot of people that put a lot of emphasis in that computer. And there's some cranes that have an LMI in them that can still be operated manually without the computer in it. Up to a certain number of days. I think if your LMI, like if you have a boom angle indicator on the side of the boom, you have boom length indicator marks on the side of the boom, and you have a load chart that references all that, then you can still operate up to, I think it's 28 days if your computer fails. But within that 28-day time frame, it has to be repaired. You flag your rope to make sure you don't two-block it. You work off your load charts like they did back in the old days. Now, the bigger cranes, where your boom angle indicator is built into your LMI and you have no other way of knowing how much boom you have out or what boom angle you're at, and you don't have markings on the side of the boom to know how much boom you have out, at that point you're shut down. But a lot of boom trucks, you could have the computer go haywire and still operate it safely. You just have to pay attention to what you're doing. Shane Davis, cameras and LMIs aren't considered by OSHA to be the safety factor. I can't remember the exact term. Yeah, Shane Davis says OSHA says you should be able to operate without those, I believe. They do up to a certain length of time. And if I remember correctly, and I'm digging way deep back into it, it's a test question on some tests, but I think it's 28 days. I could pull out my book and look up the actual standard on it, but I think they have 28 days to fix it. The company does. But you do have to make, like I said, you have to make adjustments to how you're doing things to still comply. Linda Sherman, how are you doing? Smedco, not sure. 3 different machines just have stiction issues. A 180 couldn't pick more than 2 slabs of counterweight. 220 swing as slow as molasses. In the 90 sometimes only booms in high speed. Oh. Yeah, that sounds like a mess. Well, Tadano would be your friend on that. I'm sure you probably already have all the phone numbers for Tadano, but if you need the phone numbers for Tadano, shoot me an email and I will get you every phone number that I have available to me. Mike F. Hello from North Dakota. Could you ever do a video on general crane greasing and inspection? Also, can't wait for the rigging inspection video. But Mike F. Hello from Missouri. And we are actually going to be greasing the boom and all the grease points on the 180 here before long. So I'll make a video of that. And then there's really not a lot to it. I mean, it takes some time, but it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, I'll record that. And Walter had a question up there, but he retracted it. So if you want to throw it, okay, how long ago was your last scary moment? Probably that cell tower with the 44-mile-an-hour wind gust. I mean, I've had some stuff here and there that kind of gets your attention, but nothing like that. That still was the most scared I've ever been in a crane. You know, you have 200 and let's see what was my tip height on that? Right around 250 feet of tip height. In a crane with 197 feet of main and 43 feet of swing away jib in a 200-ton capacity crane and get hit in the side with a 44-mile-an-hour wind, that will make a person's butt start pulling springs out of the seat. That was pretty spooky. I don't ever want to do it again. So Smedco says, what religion do you subscribe to regarding boom grease? Some people have some interesting thoughts on what gets smeared on there. We use Lubricate. So I don't know. I'm sure you've probably heard of it. I've seen people use Lubricate Gear Shield, which Gear Shield is fine when it's hot outside, but Gear Shield gets terribly sticky and chunky when it's cold. Lubricate seems to work and stay, pretty slick even when it's 0 degrees outside. So that's what we use. Smedco, I think I heard Crisco used before. Probably the weirdest I know. Yeah, I don't think I would use Crisco because I would think when it got hot, and a lot of the booms on these cranes are black, so when the sun beats on them, I would think even lard would liquefy and just kind of run down inside the boom. I don't know that it would stay in place. Michael from Iowa says, I have NCCCO, TLL, and TSS, but never did apprenticeship, so no one will hire in Iowa. I don't feel like I can take a pay cut to do a 4 or 5 year union school. What are your thoughts? Sorry if a repeat topic. Depending on your experience and how your local is set up, I think if you're up in Iowa, I think it's local 234. They may permit you in. You'll have to talk to them and see. If you have plenty of experience, and there's a lot of places hurting for crane operators. It's just there's a lot of places that won't take the risk of someone that doesn't have a lot of experience. I mean, you put someone in the seat of a crane, that's a huge liability. And if they're not confident in that person, they're not going to take that gamble. But reach out to local 234 up there and see what they say. They may permit you in, and if they permit you in, you come in as a full scale operator. You just have to stay on permit for X amount of time, and then get some people to sign off on it, and you're golden. You don't necessarily always have to go through the apprenticeship. So, the apprenticeship isn't the only way into the IUOE. Von Hill's moments like that are soon followed by the statement of, first I'm going to put on a new pair of pants and then I'm going home. Smedco says, heard of Lubaboom, never used it. Have to get my hands on some. Usually put Liebherr. Oh, yeah, that stuff's expensive. Except for GMKs, which get the weird Teflon spray. A guy that I used to work for, he has a Grove, I think it's a GMK 5240, and he puts Lubaboom on it without any issues. He was running Gear Shield for a while, and he was having issues in the wintertime, but he uses Lubaboom on it now, and it's fine. So it's good stuff. It's messy when you're putting it on. We use a 6-inch paint roller, a small foam paint roller, and we roll it on there. And sometimes it gets kind of stringy and flings off. And if you're downwind from it, you'll have that crap all over you. And they even have it in spray as well, but I would think that'd be even messier. We get in a 5-gallon bucket and just roll the stuff on. I don't put it on super heavy. I just get it on there enough that I get a nice even coat over the entire surface of the boom where it runs on the wear pads, and call it good. If you get too much on there, then you end up with it all over your windshield if your boom's over the front, or all over your dolly if it's over the rear. So Smedco, that 240 is a sweetheart of a crane. It's a tank. I think if I remember right, it's a 2005 maybe model year. He's still running it. I saw it go down the road the other day. And it's a good machine. I won't talk down on any manufacturer on here. They all have their pros and cons. G4 Outdoors, do you use that battery powered Milwaukee grease gun? No, but I use that battery powered DeWalt grease gun that you're thinking of. The Milwaukee was the light. But I do use the battery powered DeWalt that I got from you guys. Smedco haven't found a neat way to do that. Usually the apprentice are good for greasing a boom next to my freshly cleaned truck. That's typically the way it goes. Shane Davis says, do you the type and lay of the rope on your crane, and do you have a preference? So the Tadano has rotation resistant on it. It's not right Langley or left Langley or any of that. It's rotation resistant metric rope. I don't remember the exact specs on it. It's got a crazy number of wires in it. I don't really have a preference on the Langley of the rope. Typically, that's going to be defined by the winch manufacturer and how the grooves are cut in the winch drum. And I do believe some Beckett's and whatnot determine your lay of the rope. But as far as right Langley or left Langley, I don't know that there's a benefit of one versus the other. It's just how your equipment is set, or what your equipment's set up for. Smedco could probably chime in more on that as well, because for those that don't know, and I think it was in one of the comments a long time ago, Smedco was teaching me stuff about the crane that I operate. Someone asked a question, I think, about hydraulic pumps. And like he banged them all out there. He was talking about pumps I didn't even know were on there. Michael says no permitting allowed up here with the director and powers to be not giving up. May just move to the southern states, so they don't require any experience. Thanks for all you do in this industry. So, Michael, how far up into Iowa are you? The Minecrafter. Hi, I'm in Colorado. My in-laws live in Colorado. Hello from Missouri. Von Heels, is wire rope susceptible to internal corrosion like some cables? It is susceptible. So as long as you keep it lubricated and inspect it, and really on your rotation resistant ropes and stuff, they don't want you shoving a fit into it to pop it open and take a look at the inside. So you just kind of got to visually inspect the outside and make sure that everything looks good. On some of your other ropes, you can actually pop them open enough sometimes to see the core. It all depends on the rope and how it's set up, but it is susceptible to internal corrosion. Michael's in Des Moines. If you didn't mind picking up and moving south about 3 hours, you'd probably be in good shape. Just a suggestion. The Minecrafter, how many cranes do you have? How many cranes do I have? I have those 3 right there. The company I work for, we have 8. There you go. There's a more in-depth answer. Rotation resistance is pretty universal, good all-around cable. The odd lay stuff imparts a torque when loaded, so left versus right have to do with how you want to manage that torque. Mike F asked what you use to lubricate your crane cable. I use Lubricate cable and chain lube in a spray can, and if we get a bunch of stuff built up on the rope, we'll clean it off with a wire brush, and then I just soak it with that, and it's like $15 a can, but I'll saturate any part of the rope I can get to, and then when we set up and run a bunch of rope off, then I'll have the oiler get up there and saturate every part of the rope he can get to on the drum, and just work our way down into it as we're set up on job sites. And we do that every so often. Jason Helsley answered that for you, Minecrafter. The biggest crane that we have is a 200 ton capacity. Also, another place that people forget to lubricate their cranes, under your outrigger beams. That gets often overlooked, and even you can even grease the pockets for your outrigger pads, but when you run down the road on a gravel road, it ends up filling up with a bunch of crap. If Von Heels has the oiler oil something, who would have thought? Yeah. Yeah, Smedco cable is a deep subject. Tons of crap goes into choosing the right cable for the job. Heck, even the dead ends is a subject unto itself. That is a fact. And it seems like every day there's different rope coming out. We recently just put new rope on one of our 50-ton Manitexes, and I put galvanized wire rope on it. It's crane rope, galvanized. They use it a lot near the coasts and on offshore cranes. It's 9/16. I think it's 9/16 rope, if I remember right. Maybe 5/8. It exceeded the manufacturer's specs for ultimate braking strength. And so we gave it a whirl. We're going to see how it works out. So the Minecrafter, we don't talk politics on here. So I'm going to remove your comment. Just don't take offense to the fact that I removed your comment, but we don't talk politics. Smedco, that Samson synthetic stuff seems interesting. I haven't been around it enough to give an opinion on that Samson stuff. Jason Heltzley, have you given any more thoughts trying to get Ron Pratt back on another live stream? I haven't talked to Ron for a while. For those that don't know, if you're not following Ron Pratt, you need to, because he has some really cool recovery videos with his rotator. But he is a new grandpa. Logging Truck, how are you doing? Minecrafter, no need to apologize. You didn't know. So we're good. Jose says, do you have a load chart for the outriggers? There is a maximum specified capacity on the outriggers, 135 tons on one individual outrigger. Logging Truck, I see 150th cranes. You do. There's 3 of them back there. Jake Snake, how are you doing? Says I work for company I work for. Just purchased a Terex crossover 8,000 shipped from Texas to Virginia. Should be here next week. That Terex crossover is a different kind of animal. It's kind of a neat concept because of the way it's set up. You don't have to have any nose gear in it. I mean, it's a heck of a crane as far as the load chart. But man, the deck on that thing is crazy tall. Just because the outrigger beams cross over each other. Just be careful walking around on that deck, because if you fall off of that one, you're going to get hurt. That's what I was afraid of. Smedco has heard the Samson submarines into the winch easy unless you wrap it tight as all get out. I could see that for sure. That was one of the concerns that I had initially when they were talking about using that synthetic rope is, man, what happens when the outer layers get sucked down into the inner layers? Does it come out easy, or do you have to get up there and pry it out? Does it tear itself up when it comes out? I mean, I'm going to stick with good old-fashioned wire rope because it's worked for over a century. Patrick Burns, how are you doing? Says, when you do a job where you can't see the drop site like the roof in the recent video, is the fellow signaling you on your team, or are they from the contractor? They could be for either. I'll let a contractor signal me. Heck, I've had homeowners signal me on stuff, and if they don't know crane signals, I'll just tell them to point. OSHA states that you can make up your own crane signals as long as everybody that's involved in signaling the crane understands whatever signals you want to use. So you could use whatever crane signals you want. So, sometimes our guys will signal me. Sometimes the customers, people will signal me. If I've got good line of sight of it and I know where they want to put it, then I'll go nice and easy and just go on my own without signals. So yeah, it's a mixture, but on that particular job, it was contractor. Minecrafter, have you heard of Brooder? That, for some reason, that sticks in my head. I think I've seen that around. Shane Davis, I work on a port and see tugs stretching synthetic ropes out a lot. It's amazing to see little boats stretch those synthetic rope out, pulling 1,000-foot ship around. I can't imagine seeing 1,000-foot ship. I mean, I guess I've seen some from a distance, but That's got to be pretty intimidating, being in a little tugboat right next to a 1,000-foot ship, dragging it around. Von Neal's 135 tons. You better have one heck of a platform under it. You're going. Here, Aspen start pulling springs out of the seat. Jason Heltzley announced in his video last week his daughter was pregnant. Yeah, she's not pregnant anymore. She is now the proud mama of a healthy baby boy. Smedco heard it's forgiving, but I don't know exactly. He knew how to be untangling that every other job. That's true. Von Heel says if you're not confident, if you're not confident that you know the official signal's pointing is safer than possibly giving the wrong signal. Yeah, if you're not confident, and that's typically what I tell people. If you don't know your crane signals, point in the direction you want the load to go. If you want it to go that way, then point that way. I will make it go that way. If you want it to come this way, point and I will make it come this way. That's generally the easiest. You want it to go up, point up. I'll make it go up. You want it to go down, point down. Yep, Shane Davis says, like your point about the signal person, as long as the crane operator communicates with the signal person, then legally that's okay. Yep, as long as whatever signals you want to use are predetermined before the pick is being made, then it's legal to use whatever signals you want. But everybody has to understand what they mean. And along with that, you should only have one signal person. That's the way the standard's written. There should only be one signal person. However, anybody can give a stop signal, and the operator has to follow it. Gerald Hackman, 1,000-footers are on the Great Lakes, been on a few. I would think that would just be terribly intimidating to be. I couldn't imagine being in a, I don't know, how big's a tugboat? 50 feet long, 40 feet long, and next to a 1,000-foot long ship. Whew. Von Hill's probably the top 5 closest encounters someone getting I've ever had were from someone giving the wrong signal. I get some stuff every now and then that looks like gang signs, and it's like, I just look at them. If they don't see me, I honk at them. I'm like, if I don't know what you're asking for, I'm not going to move. I'm there to pick stuff safely, not be on the news. Well, we've pretty much had 35, 40 people on here the whole time. That's not too shabby considering I have been gone for 50 days. I guess I need to connect YouTube to a cattle prod. Just walk around with it stuck to me, and every few days have it shock me to make, come down here and edit videos for 10 or 12 hours at night. Linda Sherman, we missed you. I miss chatting with all you guys too. I haven't done a live stream for quite a while, and man, like I said earlier, it's hard to keep up with everything. And I've been kind of doing some stuff around the house. We had an in-ground pool, which nobody was using, so it was an in-ground pond in our backyard. Well, it's no more. It had a stacked stone wall. Well, I can't even say stone. It was kind of like keystone blocks or whatever. It had that all around the pool area, and it was kind of getting a little ratty. So I brought a backhoe home from work and ripped a hole in the bottom of the pool and, pumped it out first, ripped holes in the bottom of it was a fiberglass pool, ripped holes in the bottom of it, tore down the wall, caved the sides of the pool in, threw all the wall in it, and now I'm working on getting it covered up with dirt. So no more pool, no more pond. Let's go. Oof! There go my YouTube aspirations. 12 hours a night. It all depends on the video. I've got a few videos that literally took me like 10 or 15 minutes to edit them, and then I've got some videos that took me total 25, 30 hours in editing. So yeah, it's a commitment. Average for if I post a 15-minute video, my average editing time on that video is about 12 or 14 hours. So for every 15-minute video I throw out there, you can figure I've done about 12 to 14 hours of editing to put it out there. Minecrafter, do I operate crawler cranes? I don't consistently. I've operated some, but I stick with the mobile cranes. Linda Sherman, did you get a new model? I thought you only had 2 back the last time I watched. I don't know when the last time you watched was, but that one over there, where's that? Right there is the newest, and I think it's, what is that, about 6, 8 months old? Von Hill's most common mix-up is boom up and boom down, which can make a world difference. It absolutely does. Shane Davis, I don't know about you, but what about those guys that hook up to a tree with a crane? Seems kind of sketchy. I've done tree work, and it can be sketchy. A good arborist can be a crane operator's best friend, and vice versa. A good crane operator can be an arborist's best friend. So those two people have to work together very well to do tree work. Ducati AMG, hello. He says hello from Canada. Hello from Missouri. The Minecrafter, what's the smallest crane you operate? We have a 4-ton capacity Broderson crane, which is pretty small. When I'm sitting in it, part of me is still out of the cab because it's so small. Smedco at Shane Davis, like that sketchy stump video I saw on YouTube this one time. Yeah, that sketchy stump that I pulled out, it was actually 48,000 pounds. Patrick Burns, occasionally I do use more than one camera. It depends on the job. A lot depends on who we're working for. And I guess I'll cover this a little bit, but a lot of people want to see setup videos, and I would love to do an in-depth setup video on a job site, but the customer's paying us to go do a job, and I'm kind of filming while we're doing the job. It's not like I can spend 15, 20 minutes setting up cameras in different places and trying to get the perfect shot or doing retakes. Everything I do is first take because we don't get do-overs on stuff in the crane world. We're making stuff happen. So it's all first take. And, when the customer's paying $450, $500, $600 or more dollars an hour for the crane, I can't use 15 or 20 minutes of their time setting cameras up. So typically my go-to is grab a camera on a suction cup mount, stick it to the top window, face it out the front of the cab, hit the record button when we're doing stuff, and that's typically what happens. Occasionally, we'll be waiting for a customer to do something or waiting on a truck or whatever, and that'll give me a little bit of time to set some other stuff up. And when that happens, I typically use that opportunity to do that, but it doesn't happen often. Generally, when a customer calls us in to do something, 9 times out of 10, they got all their ducks in a row and they know what they want done when. They schedule stuff around us, and when we roll in there, It's get it done and get out. Walter Madsen asks, what's the stop signal? So this is the stop signal. If someone standing 100 feet away from me does this, then I stop. Vanya's actually, now that I've come to think of it, the closest to someone getting hurt on job site is worker caught his overalls on fire. I've had slag go down in my boot. That's self-critiquing. I decided to roll around dry straw. That would make it worse. Jason Helsley, that video made me nervous, and I'm not even an operator. Are you talking about the stump video? Patrick Burns says, so if we see a 15-minute video, how much did you start with? It depends. Like that stump video. I don't know how long was that stump video. That's a pretty new one. Crane versus tree. It's the last one I uploaded. That's a 33-minute video. We were on site for 8 hours. So out of the 8-hour day, there was 33 minutes of video that I uploaded. And I think I had probably, trying to remember, that one was kind of a tough one to edit because there were so many pieces of footage. But I probably had about 16 hours of editing in that 30-minute video, maybe close to 20 hours of editing in it. Gerald Hyman says, I've learned a lot watching your videos. It's great. Thank you for that. Says I used to hire cranes to do special lifts when we worked for Cummins Engine. How about a 350-ton Liberator lift a 4,500-pound alternator over a 12-story hospital into a power plant? Not too shabby. Shane Davis, cranes are expensive. I always enjoyed being the signal person, setting a piece and getting the crane in and out. That's what it's all about in the crane rental business, is getting in there, get the job done, and get out of there. Linda Sherman got a run. Good to see you again. I'm glad you tuned in. Hope you have a good evening, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you're into. Oh, Jason Helsley, the stump video made him nervous. That stump video made a lot of people nervous. And there was even people saying, well, I can't believe you'd set up so close to the edge of a creek like that. Where we were set up, just past where we were set up, the creek bank sloped off very steep from the road down into the creek. Where I was set up, it was a gentle slope, probably 2 to 1 maybe. So for every 2 feet out, it was 1 foot up, which is a pretty gentle slope. And it also had trees in it. And in the first part of the video, you can see him cutting those trees out. So there was a lot of root structure and stuff binding that bank together. That's why I felt pretty confident about it. Now, we did sink into the dirt, probably about 6 inches, and we had to level the crane up once to compensate for it. But I mean, that's just straight down compaction of the soil. Generally, if it stops moving, and that's why in that video you guys can hear me maybe holler at Kyle. I don't know if I edited that part out, but I had him standing next to that outrigger to watch it. So in any of the videos, if you see a person standing near an outrigger, really paying attention to that outrigger, it's because I either told them to be there watching it because we're doing something that maybe that outrigger could start sinking and it needs to be addressed before it turns into a catastrophe, or it's because they feel like I'm doing something that they need to pay attention to that outrigger. People that run with me have a pretty good feel for what's going on and when and why and what they need to be paying attention to. So a lot of times, Mike or Kyle or whoever's out with me will gravitate towards an outrigger and keep an eye on it and let me know if something's changing. So in that video, Kyle was standing there watching it and was giving me updates on what was going on with that one outrigger. So, Minecrafter, what's my favorite crane to operate? I'm partial to the one that I operate in most all of my videos. That 180G is a nice machine. It's a tank for its class, and it's smooth. It's reasonably fast if you need it to be. I mean, for a bigger hydro, it's pretty quick. Smedco, they've got them in their fleet. They're a great machine. Von Heels, I've done a very small amount of video editing in the past, enough to know I'm not patient enough for it. It does take some patience. And then when you get down to editing everything, some of my videos I'll put background music in, or I'll even overlay music or whatever. We have to use music that's copyright free. Otherwise, we get a copyright strike on the channel. So then you're going through YouTube's music library trying to figure out something that you think would kind of fit with what's going on the video, but also, like, for instance, back when I first started editing videos, I did a lot of experimenting with different types of music, different kinds of editing, and I was like, oh, I got this editing software. I can do this to the video, and maybe if I change this. But I used a lot of like industrial sounding music, like some dubstep stuff and whatnot, and I kind of got some kickback for it. The reason why I chose music like that is because crane work is kind of industrial, and I was trying to match music to what was going on, but evidently I'm not very good at that. So not only do you have to edit the video, and I guess I don't have to put background music in it, but I found myself paying attention more when I'm watching stuff on TV, like on Discovery Channel, or Forged in Fire is a show that I watch a lot. There's always music playing on there, and I'm trying to pay attention to how they integrated that music in. And really, when you're engrossed in it, you don't hear it, but how does that play into it? So I experiment some with that too. Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there. Von Heel's tree video was the closest thing I've seen to stuff I used to do with an excavator, so I just found myself thinking how I would have approached it with the equipment I had. I think someone even commented that Let's Dig 18 would track right down in there with his excavator and pull it right out of there. I can tell you that would not have happened. Chris is a good operator. I won't take anything away from him. He's got great machines. But that stump was in there in a position and in a place that you weren't going to just walk an excavator down in there and pluck it out of the ground like it was a flower. Ain't going to happen. That crane is capable of a whole lot more lift than what that excavator is. And I was struggling with 3 counterweights on that stump. Smedco, hey, let me know when the one in the back is about a foot off the ground. Yeah, or the famous wiggle. When you get an outrigger starts floating and the person behind is watching it and they grab it and shake it and you feel it in the crane. Swinging that Von Heels swinging that gas station canopy made me more nervous than the stump video did. So I'd never done anything like that. So I had no frame of reference of how to approach it. That kind of made me nervous because it was a big piece and we were right next to a busy road. And there was a lot of stuff that could go south in a hurry on that one. So it was a little stressful. MSL Logan, how are you doing? So what's up, man? Been a while. How you been? Been busier than I care to be. I jokingly say I didn't put my wife through 12 years of college so I could work full time, but here I am working more than full time. Patrick Burns, when you're raising the hook, there's a clicking sound. What is creating that sound, mechanical or electronic? On the Tadano, it is electronic. So there's a sensor back on the winch that monitors, and Smedco, feel free to chime in on this. I do believe it monitors like a reluctor wheel, and that sends a signal to a solenoid inside the joystick that thumps that. There's actually a little button in the top of the joystick, but it thumps it with a solenoid every time that sensor picks up the gap in that reluctor wheel. The Minecrafter says, have you heard of Guilty Treason? Have not. Von Heels, yeah. Says their videos scare me at times.
Did you tell Dalton to come down and sit with the puppies?
Yes. Did he not?
No, he was asleep.
Oh. Mrs. Top Crane just got home.
Oh, I didn't know you were on.
I am on a live stream.
Where's all the packages that were delivered?
Which packages? Checking your office.
Did you get in mail?
No. Shane Davis, you got some internet savvy kids that probably had a video in an hour anymore, but I get your point. So my brother told me, he's like, hey, you need to go to the local college and find someone that is learning video editing and just hire them to do your editing for you. And I'm like, I kind of want to edit my own videos because I want to make sure that everything that's in there is what I want to be in there for you guys to see. You know, someone that doesn't understand the industry that I'm in, you know, they may cut out something I think's neat that I want everybody to see. But to them, it's, you know, nothing. But also on the flip side, I guess I may end up cutting stuff out that I think is just boring or redundant that you guys might think's neat. So I don't know. It's a catch-22. I wish I could just do videos kind of like Ron does, where he records an hour and a half of his tow recovery and then kind of uploads it with putting an intro and an outro on it and calls it a day. But I can't do that. I got to condense 6, 8, 10, 12, 14-hour day into a video you guys don't have to spend half your life watching. Andy B, how are you doing? Says, just getting here. Hope everybody's doing great. Hope you're recovering well, Andy. Smedco, that's a good way to put it. There's a little solenoid whacking the hell out of a little plastic piece in the joystick. Von Heels, I probably would have tried to roll it out with the assistance of a doser to drag it. So to give you an idea how much mud and suction was on that stump ended up weighing 48,000 pounds, but it took almost 60,000 pounds to get it to move. Once I got it up out of there and it started losing its mud and whatnot, then it was 48,000 pounds. But it took almost 60,000 to get it to start coming up out of there. Takes a pretty decent sized excavator to pluck 60,000 pounds. I don't know that old Let's Dig 18's got an excavator that'll pull 60,000 pounds straight up out of the ground. Omar says, greeting from deep South Texas. Greetings from Missouri. Shane Davis, you didn't do the dishes. I didn't do the dishes. I have a dishwasher for that. Von Heels, well, remember, any quality video on YouTube has been watched by the creator at least 3 times. Once when they record it, once when they were reviewing the footage, and once that's a fact. And a lot of times I've watched it 6 or 7 times by the time it's all said and done. Oh, Von Hill said even Ron spends 4 to 5 hours per video. The Minecrafter, when was the sketchiest time operating a crane? I talked about it earlier. Having almost 250 feet of tip height and getting hit with 44-mile-an-hour winds is pretty sketchy. Oh. See, I knew Smedco would pull through again. He said the winch monitoring is kind of interesting in the old Tadano. On the motor, it has two sensors looking at the spinning guts of the motor, which gives a real high-resolution picture of the winch rotation, which is why it's so precise, I'm guessing. I mean, I can move that drum a quarter of an inch and it'll click. If it's right there ready to click, it's pretty precise. Andy B says it's been rough walking on your own now, or on my own now. Well, glad you're up walking. That's back surgery's got to be a tough one. Von Hills, that would have been my plan A. I would have just gone down the alphabet until I came up with a plan that would work. So on that stump, they tried a rotator. They tried tugging on it with a rotator, and I heard that they actually broke the winch rope on the rotator. I heard they tried an excavator and rotator together, and that didn't work. And they cut on it. They pulled on it. They tried twisting it. I think they tried a little bit of everything. They tried cutting more off of it. And what they came up with was a big crane. And that's what we did. Yeah, Shane Davis, tow recovery is awesome. And Ron is one of the best. Trent with Plaza Towing doesn't do too bad either. TK says greetings from what is that? Illawarra, Australia. Hopefully I didn't just completely butcher that. But hello from Missouri, USA. Oh, Smedco, that has lower resolution trigger wheel. It runs the thumper and the joystick. Finally has a big old gear reduction unit to trip a switch that stops the winch when there's 5 wraps of cable left. Patrick Burns, most excavators have counterweight built into the back of them, but yeah, it would take a very large excavator to pull a stump that size out. And Jason Hilsey said the 250 wouldn't do it, and that's the biggest he has. So that's what someone said. Someone said, well, Chris with Let's Dig would just walk the excavator right down there and pull it out like it was nothing. I'm like, no, he wouldn't. Chris DuBois, how are you doing, Chris? Dirt Boss, how are you? Said studio looks good. Thanks for that. Oh, Smedco, the high precision sensor is used for the internal safety circuit. The computer wondering why the winch is spinning when it isn't telling it to. The Minecrafter I operate most anything with an engine in it. Now, that being said, one of the things I am not terribly good with is a motor grader. So if I ever get the opportunity to get into a motor grader and record it, I will. And you guys could watch me tear up a perfectly good parking lot or gravel road with it. I've played in a motor grader a little bit, and it was an old motor grader. What was it? 7 levers on each side and then steering wheel. And I was out playing around in it. And an old guy that was a motor grader operator told me, he said, just because it's got 14 levers in it doesn't mean you got to mess with them all the time. He said, get it set where it's cutting good and just drive. Well, I couldn't do that. I was messing with everything. And I turned a perfectly good gravel parking lot into a washboard, and he had to come in and fix it. But I operate excavators, dozers, backhoes, skid loaders, rollers, cranes, dump trucks, articulated dump trucks, basically, forklifts, telehandlers. Generally, if it's got an engine in it, I can pretty well operate it. Shane Davis. What have you been in one of those cranes that helped build the arch? I'm not getting in anything that is higher than what I operate now. I'm not getting in a tower crane. I'm not getting in a rig strapped to the side of a building. I'm not getting in a rig strapped to an arch. I'm going to keep myself pretty close to the ground. Walter Madsen, hey, Mrs. Two, the top crane should stick around. She's fun too. Von Halsey BMAs, how much persuasion some big chains and a D10 can provide to something stuck in the ground. I have no doubt that a D10 would pull that out of there. However, the people's front yard that was right next to us probably would not appreciate a D10 in their front yard pulling on a stump. Ken says, Jimmy, good to see you. Keep them coming when you can from Northern Illinois. Stay safe and take care. Hope you stay safe and take care as well. Tristan says, Jimmy, it's been a pleasure having you back on live streams again. Can't wait to see more videos. I'm just ending my night shift now. Got to get some sleep. Is going snowboarding with another op. Well, have a good. Well, I guess it'd be a good day for you. You're on the other side of the pond. Be safe out there, and I'll try to stay on here more often than I have been. Tristan, I'd be glad to do a live stream with you on there on your channel whenever you want to do it. Shoot me an email. I've been trying to keep up on emails and stuff too, but Minecrafter John Deere 750. I don't know if a 750 Deere would pull a 60,000 pound stump like that. I've pulled on some stuff with some 650 Deeres that you would think it would just rip it right out of the ground, and not so much. Jason Heltzley, the 250 is a 25-ton machine. Yeah, I think that's accurate. Von Hill's cranes are really great when you have access to them, but around here they're hard to get a hold of. His local company has exactly one operator for anything bigger than their boom truck. Yeah, that'd be rough. That would make it a little difficult to get a crane. Oh, Minecraft, are you talking excavator or bulldozer? I was talking bulldozer. A 750 Deere excavator would pull a stump like that, yes. I was talking dozer. Yeah, that does make a difference. Excavator versus the dozer. Well, if any of you are around Schubert, Nebraska Monday, which I doubt you are, because it's a tiny little town in southwest Nebraska, we will be there setting a house on a basement if you want to watch. And when we leave there, we got to go through Hiawatha, Kansas to get home. I know there's a subscriber or two in Hiawatha, Kansas. Burning Dinosaurs, how are you doing? The Minecrafter says, do I watch Dirt Monkey? I do not watch Dirt Monkey. I did for a little while, and then he's kind of posted some stuff that I didn't really agree with. And I know he's got a whole bunch of subscribers, and he's kind of popular, but he also, I don't care for him. So, yeah. He was, what turned me off, he was doing a video on how to operate a payloader, as he called it. It's articulated wheel loader, but anyway, I mean, there wasn't a very good video as far as someone sitting in a cubicle working on computers all day would look at that and be like, oh, wow, that's a pretty cool video on how to operate a wheel loader. But it really wasn't. I mean, they overlooked so many things in there that you could kind of tell that he was out of his comfort zone, and he was in over his head with equipment that he didn't know much about. And to me, it didn't feel honest because he wasn't, I mean, like I said, he was trying to sell something he didn't know anything about or didn't know much about. And that's when I was like, I'm out. I'm not going to sit there and watch someone BS their way through something like that and then try to pass it off as them knowing what they were talking about on it. So there's that. There's my other little rant, I guess. Andy B, we had a 375 cat, but you'd tear up a lot just getting it in there. Yeah, Von Hill says, I'm not sure if people realize how close to the limit of the machine Chris pushes those machines at times. He's a great operator, makes it look smooth and easy, but it isn't. And that's a fact. Chris is one heck of a hoe operator. I mean, absolutely. Probably one of the best I've ever seen. And I've been in this industry for a long time. And he is definitely one of the best I've ever seen. Dirt Boss Masonry and Excavating. What do you think about the AC crane flip? I haven't watched the video, so I don't know. I don't think I would post a video of him. I mean, if I was Andrew, I don't think I would have posted a video of me flipping a crane over, but he can do what he wants. Burning Dinosaurs Cold just got out of the shop and just getting the wood stove going. I do that all the time, Shane. It says, do you ever show up to a job with an unknown weight and you have to do your math to see what setup you need? All the time. I typically try to set up for more than what I think or more than what I'm being told, because it seems like 8 or 9 times out of 10, it always weighs more than what they tell you. But yeah, I pull tape measures and reference load charts all the time and do calculations. Burning Dinosaurs says, that's a good question at Shane Davis. Yeah, how do you figure that kind of stuff? So it depends on what you're picking. If you're picking like precast concrete weighs X amount of pounds per cubic foot. You can measure the length times the width times the height, calculate how many cubic feet's there, and then multiply that times how many pounds per cubic foot, or if you're doing cubic yards and whatnot. Steel weighs X amount of pounds per square foot, depending on its thickness. So there's ways to calculate that out. You can sit down and come pretty close hand calculating anything. And then, a good rule of thumb is if you figure something that and it comes up to 20,000 pounds, then you set yourself up to be able to pick 25 or 30,000 pounds and you got it covered. So, and there's even methods to calculate like that stump we were talking about. I've got a pretty handy calculator on this that has all different species of wood. You can enter the species of wood, the log length, log diameter. It'll tell you how much per cubic foot it weighs and then how much the log weighs. But with the stump, there was always the unknown. How much suction does it have on it? How much water's in it? And how much mud was stuck to it. So that's why we had to call for extra counterweight. The people above me said, hey, you ought to be able to go in there and yank this thing out of there, putting about 25,000 pounds on it. I said, that thing's not going to move until it gets at least 50 on it. That's just based on experience. But to satisfy the people above me, we went in there and got set up for 30,000 pounds, and it wasn't enough. So we called for extra counterweight, and then we regrouped and we, when in doubt, set up for a whole lot more than 25 or 30,000 pounds. So yeah, there's that. Fun heels, but yes, the methods I would have used for the stump would have created a lot more collateral damage. We've been on site at least another day or two fixing everything we tore up. Yeah, Jason Helsley said, let's dig, and Dirt Perfect are much better at explaining how to operate that kind of equipment. And I'm assuming he's meaning much better at explaining versus Dirt Mucky. The Minecrafter, what is the heavy load you have done? I'm assuming the heaviest thing I've picked, and with our Tadano was a 129,000 pound tank. And there's videos of both of those that I've done. And then heaviest overall is a 179,000 pound gas turbine generator shaft. This Medco loader guy sounds like the type who wouldn't even run a fever, let alone equipment. He does okay with lawnmowers and skid loaders. He gets much bigger than that, and he's out of his element. Von Heels, I ran into that today, as a matter of fact. Says the load is always bigger, the access is smaller, and the work area less ideal than what the customer tells you. So, situation today, we're getting set up for putting a house on a foundation or on a basement Monday. Customer says, hey, I staged this half of the house where I think you can put the crane between it and the basement, which the crane fits. The crane fits with full span outriggers, which isn't an issue. The issue was the crane with full span outriggers won't fit in there along with the support semis that I need to put next to me to get my counterweights off. So we had to work around that. The way we worked around it is I set the crane up in mid-span outrigger configuration, which makes the footprint a lot narrower. Pulled my counterweights off the truck and set them on the ground, and then we got out of their way. So Monday morning, we will go from mid-span outriggers to full-span outriggers, stack up the stack of counterweights, get our rigging together, and set the house. But yeah, they're like, hey, we got you 43 feet in there. That should be plenty. Your outrigger footprint's only 30. I'm like, but you're forgetting I got to put an 8.5 foot wide semi-trailer next to me to set the crane up. So there's that. Dirt Boss Masonry said, do you calculate for windage, as in like the wind forces? Because wind is one thing that can't really be compensated for. It's ever changing and it's fluid. And I go off what my anemometer tells me, and I go off what the manufacturer's recommendations are for wind speeds. So if it's blowing over 15 miles an hour with jib work, then we don't do any jib work, because the operator's manual says no jib work with wind speeds in excess of 15 miles an hour. Yep, Smedco answered that. Yeah, and it depends on what you're picking. If you're picking something that's real heavy and compact, then the wind's not going to have much effect on that. If you're picking up something that, like the gas station canopy that there's a video of, actually there's a couple of them, one when I pulled it off and one when I put it back. Something like that, it's got a lot of surface area and it's not overly heavy, so the wind could really have its way with it. So even though there's manufacturer specifications for wind ratings, sometimes if the job dictates it, then you might have to shut down in 10 or 12 miles an hour of wind, because whatever you're handling couldn't be handled safely given the wind. Von Heels, the 180's tail swing does not fit within its full span footprint. It will hang over the sides of the full span footprint about 18 inches. The Minecrafter, you drive all over the country. We'll drive as far as someone wants to pay us to go, but typically it's not generally cost effective to make us go more than 100 or so miles, unless we're going into an area that's not serviced by other crane companies. So Gerald Heitman says, bedtime here. Thanks for an enjoyable and educational evening. Thanks for tuning in, Gerald. Hope you have a good night. But yeah, the Minecrafter, to answer your question, there's around every major city, there's typically a handful of crane companies. And then there's and even some smaller towns and stuff, there might be a crane company dotted here or there. And generally, when you start overlapping those companies, it doesn't become cost effective to run a crane out that far. Now, we do have some customers that will only use us, regardless of where they go. They'll only use us, and I'm thankful for that because it does generate more work for us, which is more income for me and less YouTube videos for you guys because I have less time to edit. But um, you know, I've had a customer that ran us out about 5 hours just to set a house. So yeah, we'll go wherever someone wants to pay us to go. Yeah, Von Heels, no matter how many times or no matter how many precautions you take or how many times you've done it, working under a load is always dangerous. Seeing a lot of people forget that. Complacency kills, and it does it a lot in the construction industry. So Patrick Burns asked a good question. He said, "Can you explain the advantages of using a jib?" So, and there's a lot of misconception about this out there, and even on the NCCCO study material and stuff, they tell you that a jib is only to be used for gaining extra height, which isn't necessarily the case. Your load charts given to you by the manufacturer dictate the capabilities of the crane, and if you can increase the working radius of the crane with jib based on those load charts, then you can actually or absolutely use it for increased radius. But what the jib does is you can only compact so much main boom length into a package and run it down the road. If you need longer boom than that, then the jib actually attaches to the end of that main boom stuff and it adds a whole lot more length. And it's a lot lighter. But when you start throwing the jib on them, your actual capacity starts diminishing very fast. Yeah, there you go. Smedco says a whole heck of a lot lighter than a boom section. Big difference when stuck way out on the end. That's why they're good for reach and not weight. So, for instance, R180, the one that I operate, when I'm stacking out a cell phone tower, if it's a 300-foot tower, I use 186 feet of main boom, which is 11 feet shorter than its actual main boom length. Maximum main boom length is 197 feet, 196.8, I think, or 96.9. But it rounds up to 197 on the computer screen. And then I'll use 186 feet of main and then put 122 feet of jib on it. Now, the reason why I don't run that extra 11 feet out is, one, it makes the boom a lot stiffer, having those main boom sections partially retracted into each other, but it also increases the capacity by 200 pounds. Now, I know 200 pounds doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're putting something 300 feet in the air, you will take a 10-pound increase in capacity if you can get it. And jibs give you a lot of up and over reach, and you can gain a lot of radius with a jib. The like I said earlier, the max main boom length on the 180 is 197 feet, but the maximum radius for the crane with 3 inserts and full counterweights is 249 feet. So that's a lot further than the main boom length. The only way you gain that is adding jib to it. Shane Davis says, does it make you more nervous with a lot of boom and be within your chart or short boom? You know, the shorter the boom, the better, as far as jobs go. And it even says in the standard that you should use a shorter boom as possible to do the job. But whenever you can keep stuff close to the ground, there's always more comfort level there, because if something starts happening, you have an out. You can just set it down. Once you get a lot of boom out and you get stuff way up in the air, if something happens, you're married to it. There's no free fall and just drop it and save yourself. It's if something comes unglued, it's coming apart. Jason said, I know we have one crane here in town, but have a company 30 minutes east and 45 minutes west with larger cranes. Smedco's. Let's see. Yep. Jibs can also allow you to reach up and over tall stuff too, where you could not get straight line access to the pick. Yep. And ours is a hydraulic luffer, which is fantastic. I would hate to have a fixed jib on that thing because there's actually times that I'll left the jib just a little bit if I got to move it, ever so slightly. The Minecrafter, have you heard of Caterpillars coming out with cranes? I have not seen a Caterpillar crane. Robert, how are you doing? This is full boom and full length jib or all boom and multi-part line. How much winch line you have left? So if I have full boom and full length jib, I still have a lot of winch line, a lot of rope left on the drum. There's 1,100 feet of rope on that main winch. And if I've got full boom, I got a tip height of 330 feet. Well, full boom and jib, I got a tip height of 330 feet. So even by the time you go up the back of the boom and back down to the ground, worst case scenario, you're going to use about 650 feet. Now, if you put multiple parts of line in, you can run out of line with 6 parts of line and, 156 feet of boom. Oh, that's a good question, Burning Dinosaurs. Your choice, low but heavy and tight quarters or high but light and windy, and why? I will always take low and heavy and tight quarters. I don't know why, but I like really precise work. So low and heavy, you've got that out if something starts happening. Crane starts tipping over. If you got your load 2 inches off the ground and for some reason the ground starts giving away under your outriggers and the crane starts going over, the load's going to sit down, take weight off the outriggers. Odds are you're not going to go over. If you got something light and a long ways up in the air and wind affecting it, that wind load can increase significantly and do nasty stuff to a crane boom. That would be unsafe for sure, as far as people trying to handle something that was blowing around in the wind 300 feet up. But it also will make your boom dance around to the point that it makes things hard to control. So Minecrafter, the longest boom I've ever put up was on our 180G in one of my cell phone tower videos, and I had 330 feet of tip height. It's 320 feet total length, but by the time you factor in the height of the carrier, you end up with 330 feet of tip height. Which, there's not a lot of people in the world that have put up over 300 feet of boom. And I say that relatively. There's, in the grand scheme of crane operations, there's not a lot of people that put up over 300 feet of boom. That's a long ways up. 330 feet is the length of a football field with both end zones. Shane Davis said, I believe it's called the button termination. Can't believe that supports the load. And really, your button terminations and pendant lines are the only ones that are rated for 90 and 100% of cable strength. When you run it through a Beckett, I think it's something like 80% of the overall strength of the cable. So a button termination is physically stronger than running it through a wedge and Beckett. And if you think about it, that button that's on there, your line pull is only 16.750 on that crane. So the most force that button's ever going to see is 16,750. If you're picking 100,000 pounds, well, you've parted the crane up enough that each individual part is only going to see a maximum of 16,750. So when you think of it that way, that button's not really hanging on to a whole bunch of weight. Patrick Burns, I have an actual video, an old video, back in one of my first ones that describes how the boom extends. But it's a single hydraulic cylinder that runs one section out at a time. Von Heels, that's a very good point. So crane booms are exceptionally strong in their intended force direction. They're very weak to side horizontal forces. Absolutely. Yep, Smedco says some of those buttons are even glued on instead of crimped. That's fact. Yeah, if someone wants to throw a link up to that old video, man, that was probably the third or fourth one I ever put on the channel. But I showed the monitor and how the cylinder was moving back and forth and grabbing the sections and running them out. The Minecrafter, that's a good question. He said, why did you create the YouTube channel? So a friend of mine that was on here earlier, Randy with G4 Outdoors, he's been one of my best friends for years. He's like, dude, you got to take a camera with you to work and start recording what you do. I'm like, I don't know what's going to want to watch that. He said, oh, you'd be surprised. So he finally worked on me long enough that I did it. And I hadn't initially planned on turning this into like an educational kind of channel, this channel, it's neat in the fact that it's gone a lot of different directions. Some parts of it are educational. Some parts of it are entertainment. The educational side kind of scares me a little bit because everybody's got a different way of doing things. Everybody looks at things differently. I'm one of those people that I would hate to give someone bad advice and have them apply it incorrectly, or have them apply it and something happen, or even give someone advice and have them apply it incorrectly and something happens. But yeah, like Burning Dinosaurs just said, infotainment. It's a little bit of all of that. And then you get some crazy random stuff thrown in every now and then. Oh, thanks for that, Von Heels. And who knows what you're going to see on here. I've fixed stuff. Every so often I'll do something in my garage, and like the video I did, what was it, 2 winters ago, where I used a Harbor Freight pump to pump CLR through my daughter's heater core on her Jeep Liberty to unclog her heater core. Every winter that video does good. And that worked very well. I should have put that in the video. I forgot to put the end result in, but that worked very well. So if any of you have a clogged heater core, I have a video for that. Smedco at Von Hills had a concerning moment with Tadano RT recently in regard was doing an AT capacity pick, and the sun on one side of the black boom made it camber off. Yep, that is solar deflection, and that is a thing. Even talks about it in the Tadano Operator's Manual if you dig into it deep enough. So what Tadano says, if you are noticing, if you have solar deflection in your crane boom where it's shooting off to one side because the sun's beating on it, then you are to rotate the crane the opposite direction until the sun warms up the opposite side of the boom until it's even before you make a pick. Or before you make a max pick, I think. I don't know. I could look it up. I got the manual over there, but it might take me a while to find it. Minecrafter, have you heard of the person that's scared of heights, but he operates tower cranes? I'm not scared of heights, but I've got a very distinct respect for gravity, and I'm not operating tower cranes, period. Andy B. Nashville Airport's putting up a roof structure. They've been building a crawler for over a month now. I might be wrong. Thought it was 30 loads. 30 loads on a crane. That's going to be in the 650 to 900 ton class, probably. It's going to be a pretty good size rig. Patrick Burns, does the pin and push ever jam? Occasionally, I'll get a section stuck if I run them all out to 100%. Occasionally, I'll get, and it typically is section 3 or 4 that'll get stuck when I'm trying to retract them. And what it is in order for that section to release its boom pins, it has to push out to about 101% of its total length. And then it retracts the pins and comes in. And sometimes it doesn't push to that 101%, so it can't retract the boom pins. So what I have to do is put it in manual mode, manually push that section out to 101%, and then flip it back into automatic mode, and it will release the boom pins and go ahead and retract. David Dunham, hello. He says hello from Oregon. Hello from Missouri. Robert asks, have you ever set up the crane, started to pick, and have to stop and reset outriggers for one reason or another? I have, because they'd start sinking in the ground and have to set the piece back down and re-level the crane. It does happen. Smedco, Patrick Burns freaking constantly. I may be biased as a mechanic. It does happen. Pinning booms do sometimes get stuck. Shane Davis, that would be me. Scared of heights, but that would be my job. Yeah, I had an old boy tell me a long time ago, he said, in order to ensure your survival, you never get higher than corn or lower than potatoes. And there's a lot of truth to that. Yeah, Smedco manual mode is rowdy on Tadano AT is good for breaking stuff if you aren't careful. That's a fact. And I don't know how this happened. To this day, I don't know how this happened. I was on a job one time with the 180, and my boom pins were pinned. And Smedco, you're probably going to want to pay attention to this one. This might go over some other people's heads on here, but my B pins were pinned into the section below it, but my C pins weren't pinned into the section I was shooting for, but they were extended inside the boom. And so when I went to go grab the next section to retract it, my C pins were hitting the bottom of the boom section and trying to shove it out, but they weren't actually pinned into that section. So I had to manually release my C pins to get them retracted, run the cylinder out to the length designated on the little chart next to me, and then manually pin the C pins into that section before I was able to put it back into automatic mode and have it function. That one kind of threw me for a loop because I was like, hey, my cylinder's retracting, but my section's not coming in. And on my screen, it was showing my C pins were engaged, but it was also showing my B pins were engaged. And finally, through the process of elimination, I figured out that it was because my cylinder obviously wasn't pinned into the section. Von Hill says you've also had to ask the customer or other contractors for help getting the crane off the site after you were done with picks. I've utilized customers and contractors for blocking roads and stuff like that. I've been stuck twice in the old Tadano. Luckily, both times there was a D6 on site. So I had to have the contractor pull me out. Yeah, I've only been stuck twice. Both times were on a house job, and both times there was a D6 there. And both times I had the dolly behind me with the boom on the dolly. And I can tell you that boom dolly is great for going down the highway, but when you get off into soft ground, it turns into an anchor. Those semi tires do not run through dirt near like those AT tires do. Von Heels, it was the same D6. Same dirt contractor was on both house jobs. And unfortunately, I put ruts in someone's front yard that they're probably still there. I was up to the pumpkins. I was up to the differentials in the old Tadano. Yes, Medco, usually they kick up a fuss when that happens. Probably had some crud on a proximity switch. Or since it's Tadano RF interference, extremely susceptible to it. Yeah, it never gave me a warning or anything. It just acted like it was going to do its own or do its normal routine. You know, C pins go out, lock into the section, B pins retract, and it brings it in. It went out and shot the C pins out before it grabbed the section and tried to shove the section out the other end of the section below it. But, you know, a little bit of manual mode and paying attention and worked through it pretty quick. I think it had me hung up for about 5 minutes. That's why it's important. All these new people get into cranes, and even veteran crane operators. If you're running a pinning boom machine, it's a good idea to every so often throw that thing in manual mode and retract it and extend it. Not so much because you're working the machine in manual mode and the machine needs it. It's to keep you sharp on how to do it, because manual mode is a whole different animal than running it in automatic mode. Smedco had a ATF 90 mechanically lobotomized the boom mechanism with a similar phenomenon. That would be no good. And, you know, what would happen if it was section 1 and you had all the rest of them out? I mean, that would, you would have to lay it down. And, I mean, you'd have to, some of those you would potentially, if you didn't have enough counterweight on it, you would have to potentially bring another crane in to assist in laying it down to get in there and fix it. Patrick Burns says, how do you service the pins? Take the sections apart? There's actually covers on the side of the boom sections that you can take off to grease the pins. And then there's also grease fittings in the top of the sections where you can run. I've actually made an adapter that's basically a piece of brake line with a needle greaser on the end of it and then a grease zerk on the top of it. And I can shove that down inside the boom sections and grease the pins. Von Heels, do you think crane operators should have to do something akin to the advanced training that some pilots have started doing for aircraft, where you revisit situations that have happened in the industry? I don't think that would be a bad idea. And I don't know that it necessarily needs to happen in a simulator. I guess it depends on what you're trying to overcome or what situation you're trying to train for. But, you know, there was talk at one time of the crane certification being model specific. I don't know that it necessarily needs to go that far, but I think a person, you know, these cranes are getting so technologically advanced, and each crane is significantly different than the next one. It's not a bad idea to have a company rep come out and spend some hours with people that are going to be sitting in the seat and show them all the ins and outs and what ifs and why nots of that particular model. Oh, Smedco, it was fully extended with the jib on it. So what'd you have to do? Hook onto it with another crane and help lay it down so you could fix it? Minecrafter asks, how long have I been in the crane business? I was in equipment rental for 10 years, and we had cranes there. And then I've been in the crane rental industry and cranes for right around 10 years. Robert says you're hired as a crew with riggers or hired just as a crane. Customer has its own riggers. It just depends on the customer. A little bit of both. Smedco at 2 top crane. Well, it would be good to let people experience that light feeling in a controlled situation. Yeah. That light feeling sometimes, sometimes it doesn't bother you, and then other times you're like, yeah, I don't ever want to experience that again. Minecrafter, I've been watching since the first video. That is a long time. Oh. Smedco had to go up in a man basket, cage the pins while an assist crane brought her in. That sucks. That's some work. Jason Heltz, I think I'm going to get off here for tonight. It was great seeing you tonight and hope to see some great videos soon. Have a good night and stay safe. You too, Jason, and good luck with what we were talking about earlier. I don't know if anyone's around you now, so I'm not going to go into detail, but simulators are good for letting you experience those non-normal situations in a controlled environment where you're not going to hurt anyone or anything. Yeah, I could see that. And then, I mean, there's crane simulators out there. Our local training center has one. So, I mean, they have their place, but simulators are great, but they also don't completely replace real world experience. I think people in a simulator still have it in the back of their head that they're in a simulator, so there's not as much panic necessarily as when it's really happening. And I've had people even comment, I don't know how you can stay so calm and collected and whatnot in the crane. Well, sometimes things aren't going right, and you can't freak out and fly off the handle, because that just magnifies the problem. It's you stay calm, cool, and collected, work through the issue, and then you can break down when it's all taken care of. Robert, not to curse you, but have you ever broken down while supporting a load? Not in our 180, but I have in other cranes. Patrick Burns, I don't know if there's crane simulators for download on the interwebs or not. So I'm not sure. There's some crane simulator games out there that are kind of neat. Some of them are available on Android and iPhone. Andy B, my wife has been safe at work, and so is my daughter. So we're still COVID free in this house, and she's around it every day. So I guess that's a testament to how well she protects herself there. Von Heel's correct. They're a tool to help. Though you've at least seen it before, even not in the real world. Simulate experience is better than none at all. I don't disagree. The Minecrafter, that's a good question. What's my favorite crane? Well, you can't see it over here. You can go on Google and look it up. It's not released to the market yet. Tadano ATF 600G-8. If they ever get that thing tuned the way they need to get it tuned and released to the market, it's going to be a game changer, and it's going to be a neat machine. So if you just Google ATF 600G, it'll probably pop up. It's a pretty neat machine. It's technology that's never been used before. Smedco, that's a good idea. I said a simulator to practice the different LMIs would be incredibly valuable. Agreed. especially with the new cranes. The digital age has done things for cranes that, some of it is way over the top, but some of the different parameters you can set and stuff you can view, and with telemetry and all of that is a lot of neat technology. Shane Davis, once you leave the barn, is the pick and setup placed in the operator's hands? It all depends on the job. I get the final say in it. If it's not safe, we're not doing it. If I feel it's going to put people or the machine in danger, it won't happen. The Minecrafter puts my least favorite crane. There's a lot to choose from. I would say probably our 4-ton Broderson, because it's terribly uncomfortable. Google one of those. They're tiny. It's a carry deck crane used in a lot of industrial situations, but the deck is about the size of a pickup bed, and it's got an engine, crane, cab, everything crammed into that area. And they're not swing cabs, so if you got to do something behind you, you got to break your neck to see what's going on. And I'm not a fan of them. Von Niels was going to say earlier, even if Tadano gave you guys a 600G, I'm not sure if you guys would take it, as the upkeep would probably be cost prohibitive in your area. Yeah, and logistically, it would be challenging. Trying to remember how much counterweight that puts on. 345 or 385,000 pounds of counterweight. Massive amounts of jib. Actually, here's some specs on it. I've got a Tadano poster next to me. Max lifting capacity in U.S. tons is 660. Boom length 50.2 to 183.7. Maximum jib length is 308.7 feet. So you'd need a bunch of trucks just to haul the jib. Hey, Lakeside Ranch, how are you doing, Doug? Hope you guys are all doing well. I don't like the shirt, bud. Yep, this is one my wife got me. Oh, Smedco, unfortunately, where I'm at, boom dollies don't exist around these parts. I wish we didn't have to use a boom dolly. Kai Davis, how are you? Rambozo Clown, how are you doing, Rambozo Clown? What's up with the hammer? We got that question a few times earlier. It's sitting in the corner of the garage collecting dust. As you can, wow, this thing needs a bath. As you can tell by my hat, we've been pretty busy. Oh, the Minecrafter says, today is my birthday. Happy birthday to the Minecrafter. Okay, Davis. I went to work with my dad, had a job that has 2 giant trees leaning against each other. I would think you could probably cut one down and take the other one out with it. Oh, Smedco has a touch more jib than our LTM 1500. A lot less boom, though. Well, everyone, I know some people have just jumped on here, but I've been going for 2 hours and 45 minutes, and I am not doing a 6-hour live stream like I did that one night. That was ridiculous. I could barely talk the next day. So I'm probably going to jump off here, but I'm going to go back through some of my old footage and see if I can find that one tank I was talking about earlier that almost put me out of my chart. We'll see about throwing that up there. And there's some pretty neat footage in there of a tracked skid loader getting pretty stuck. Patrick Burns let the dog in. Actually, the dog's in. He's just upstairs. But yeah, track skid loader got stuck on a job. They had to drag it out with an excavator, and it was one of those jobs. It was just kind of a. We went in to try to do it initially, and there was an inch thick sheet of ice everywhere, and it was kind of a nightmare. But anyway, I've got some old footage I'm going to go through and try to upload some of that, and then I've got some new footage I got to work through, and we'll have obviously a bunch more footage coming up because I'm going to be very busy for the next 2 to 3 weeks. I'll try to get something up beginning of the week next week. So, Smedco, looking forward to the next live stream in March. We'll do one before March. How about if we try to do one maybe right around the first of the year? What do you guys think? Stretch it out to, I don't know, 3 weeks or so instead of 2 months as far as live streams. So anyway, everybody, hope you have a fantastic weekend. Thanks for tuning in and watching me do this stuff, and thanks for your patience and sticking around while I've been gone for 50 days almost. And we'll get some more stuff uploaded. So with that, everybody have a great weekend. Great next week. Stay safe. And happy holidays, because if we wait till the first of the year, I won't be on before then. So Rambo's a clown. I was just wondering what happened, and here you are. I've had to cut my candle in half, so I had 4 ends to burn. So there's that. But anyway, everybody have a great weekend. Thanks for everything. Stay safe out there. Two Top Cranes out.